Hi, this is Diana Geip, and we are shooting this recording today for our cost segregation feasibility analysis. We have our CEO, Terry Judge, who's going to be dissecting the analysis and kind of going over more of the specifics for your learning benefit. So, Terry, if you'll go ahead and take over from here, we'd greatly appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Diana. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, everything's great.
Okay, so Diana and I are going to tag team this benefit analysis training. We wanted to put this together today to give our advisors kind of an idea of how this tool is the kind of the magic sauce. And we use this to open up a lot of opportunities because this is our no-cost benefit analysis. This is where we actually pinpoint the cash benefit that's typically trapped within a commercial property. Again, cost segregation is just a form of accelerating depreciation based on some improved revenue rulings at the IRS tax code. A lot of building owners don't understand this. It's very misunderstood. It's underutilized. A lot of CPAs do not do this internally, and that's why it has created such a big opportunity for the core advisors, because we can come in and actually position us as the resource to actually get the money out of the building. So what we're going to share with you today is actually a real live case study. This is an actual project that we are working on right now as we speak here in Detroit, Michigan. We have done projects all over the country, so there's no barriers, there's no territory restrictions. Anywhere that there's a commercial building over $750,000 and above will typically qualify or potentially could qualify for a cost segregation study. So, and I'll get into some more components as we kick this thing off. So this is, we changed the names, we redacted this a little bit just to protect our clients, just protect their name and have some confidentiality. But you can see the property name as 2777 property. That was just, normally that would be, if we go up to the top, that would be your client, that would be your name, and we would typically write in we'd have the property address or I'm sorry, not the property address, but the actual name of the LLC. So Dan, why don't we scroll down?
Okay.
Okay, so what I want to point out is if you can see under the property assumptions, the cost of this particular property, this is a pretty big building. This is about 200,000 square feet. This building was over $18 million, and it was put in service in 2015. Now, this was actually an acquisition. One of our partners actually got in the door of a large real estate brokerage firm that they actually purchased this facility. Yeah, Diane, if you can do some annotations over things that I'm talking about, that's okay.
So this is the property assigned the current cost that you were talking about, correct?
Yeah, maybe just instead of like highlighting it like that, maybe just circle it, and it'd be easier to see because the yellow makes it a little more difficult. Okay, so what's cool about this particular property, the bigger the property cost, obviously the bigger the benefit. So if we go up to, I just want to highlight the actual net savings, because what you're going to have is this first page really says it all. And in order to kick out these numbers, all we need from you guys, all we need to get this information to punch in is the purchase price of the building and the date it was put in service. That's why what Diana just highlighted, the date and the cost. Those are the two biggest things we're looking for. Now, if you can, tell us square footage, and obviously we need to know what type of building. So if it's an office building, great. If it's a, bowling alley, if it's a car dealership, obviously we're going to know that information. You're going to be able to tell us that information, but it's really non-invasive. That's really all we need. And this, again, this first page will, as you can see, as we go through this, you're going to have all the ammunition you need to sell cost segregation studies. Now this goes into more in depth, and I'll highlight a couple pages as we kind of dig into this thing and tear it apart. So go up to the cost segregation, the CSS highlights up top.
Okay.
And you can see that the first year cash savings from this study is approximately $208,554. Okay, and so that's obviously very substantial, and that's going to catch someone's attention. The 5-year cash savings, which is the next line, is $976,571. Now, what I want to do is break down where these numbers actually come from. So now, obviously, that's, again, $976,000. A commercial property owner is going to be like, wow, I mean, you're kidding me, right? I mean, that's pretty substantial. So, and that's reality. So if we go down to the estimate of the CSS, which is cost segregation study, benefits to the client, to you. So that would be obviously to the client. If you see the Diana, the 4.377.
Yes.
$4,377,600. Just maybe circle that there. Thank you.
Which is huge. Everybody wants to see that.
That is going to be the dollar amount that we're actually going to separate out from that original purchase price of $18 million and change. And I'll show you where that number comes from, but right now just stay with me. The 4.3 million that's the dollar amount that qualifies for shorter life acceleration or accelerated depreciation. And and let me break that down even a little further. The IRS allows hundreds and hundreds of building components, which is made up of the electrical, wiring, plumbing, irrigation systems, electrical systems in the building, non-load-bearing walls, drainage systems, fixtures, drop ceilings. All of these components, which you'll learn about, can be put into a 5-year life and broken out of the normal straight line accounting method, which is the normal typical accounting methods on commercial buildings. It has a depreciable life of over 39 years. Well, the power of a cost segregation study is that we're able to break apart that entire building, every nickel that went into the construction of that building, and we're able to put it into 5-year property as opposed to keeping it into 39-year property, which means that they're able to take a huge depreciable expense or a write-off, and they're able to take that in today's dollars immediately and use that benefit over the next 5 years. And there's also 7-year and 15-year life, but the biggest bucket the biggest impact, the biggest bang for the buck is we're moving it from 39-year life down into 5-year life, and we're moving it out of real property, which is under the tax code, section 1250, and we're moving it into what we consider personal property, section 1245 of the tax code, but at a federal level. This has nothing to do with personal property tax at a county level, okay? So this is at a federal level. It's a different set of books, and we're able to break apart that building into shorter life components, but essentially that front loads that depreciation that you would have to wait 39 years to get your hands on. Through a core cost segregation study, we're able to get you that money, or get your client that money now, today. So I always like to use the analogy: if you won $1 million lottery, if you got lucky enough to win $1 million in the lottery, would you want to be paid out over 39 years, or would you rather be paid out over 5 years? And obviously, everybody would want to be paid out in over 5 years, because a dollar today is worth more than a dollar down the road. It's called time value of money, and that's a huge caveat and a huge benefit and a huge perk why somebody would want to do a cost segregation study. So getting back to these numbers, now we are, we actually, where the $4.377 million came from is you can see at the bottom of this tablet here, of this all these little numbers here, this bracket of numbers here. Look at the bottom, it says 24%. So that's, if you take the purchase price and we allocated roughly about 24%, and I'll show you where we got that number in a minute, but typically we're able to accelerate anywhere from 18 to 35% and moving it into out of long-term life, which is 39-year, into 5-year life. So we're essentially taking 24% of the purchase price, which is the 18 million, and that's where we're getting that 4.3 and change. Okay. Now, as we scroll down here, you're going to see. No, go back up. Go back up. Sorry. Just so everybody can see that window. I want to go through these numbers here. In the traditional, if you look at the third line item down, the traditional straight line depreciation expense for current year. Yep, Diane, perfect. Just kind of, underline that there. Is $253,333. I mean, that would be their normal deduction that they would be able to take under the normal accounting methods, what we call straight line. You can see this SL, that means straight line depreciation. And if we actually applied the techniques of cost segregation, their additional current year depreciation expense from a CSS is going to be $595,000 and $840. So $595,840. That is going to be the boost. That's going to be the additional depreciation, which is huge. So if you take those two numbers, the 253,333, which is the normal straight line method, and then you add in what our work would generate, which is the 595,840. So circle those two numbers just so everybody can kind of see where I'm at. If you add those two up, you're going to get the magic number of 849,173. There you go. Okay. And then so the 849, that is the gross deduction that they're going to be able to take in the first year benefit. And then most property owners and most businesses are being taxed roughly around 39.6% tax. I mean, that's what the ordinary income tax rate in the United States is. Now, some people are at a lower tax bracket, some people are at a higher tax bracket, but let's just say we're using 40% as the magic number. That's what we call an EFT, which is their effective tax rate, or I'm sorry, EFR is their effective tax rate. So their net in their pocket is going to be $208,554, which is that next line item right there. Yep. That's going to be net in their pocket. And then now, Diane, if you scroll up to the top of this page, you'll see that it matches the number we first talked about when we first started the training under their first year cash savings, estimated to be $208,554. Now, when you're selling cost segregation, property owners, they just want the bottom line. They don't want all the all the nitty-gritty and the gobbledygook and all these numbers. I'm just explaining to you how these numbers are generated from. So when you're talking to an owner, obviously you can go through this, highlight it, pinpoint it, talk a little about, hey, Mr. Client, based on your purchase price of $18,240,000, about 24% of that can be accelerated into 5-year property according to new and improved revenue rulings under this engineering-based cost segregation study provided by CORE. And we're now able to get you an additional $208,554 back in your pocket. Additionally, we're able to get you $976,571 over the course of the next 5 years, which can impact your bottom line, which means you can hire more employees, which means you can maybe purchase another building, buy new equipment. All that additional money that you would typically have to pay Uncle Sam is now going to go back in your pocket, That's a huge cash improvement, and that's, so that you're going to be able to highlight that. Now let's take one more step further, and I'll actually tell you how we actually came up with the $976,571. Now, if you go back down to where we were, and Diane, you can leave the page right where it's at, right under, go back to estimate of cost segregation studies benefits to you. The next line item underneath the 208,554 is the big number, is 2.790203, almost 2.8 million. Okay, so that's going to be their 5-year additional depreciation, and then times their effective tax rate of 40% is going to leave them net in their pocket over the next 5 years. They're going to pick up $976,571. Now, folks, I don't know about you, but nobody's getting that kind of return in the stock market. And when people that are investing in real estate see this, it becomes a very, very powerful tool, probably one of the most dynamic tax strategies still in the U.S. tax code. And I will tell you that it's been in the tax code since the late 60s, and it's only getting better. This is not a something that they mess with. Now, there's other tax credits at the federal level, state level, that change, that expire. They play games, they renew it, like the R&D tax credit typically, gets extended every single year. Cost segregation is different, and it's rock solid, and it's never been messed with. Now, I can't say for sure down the road one day that we have a whole new IRS tax code and situation, but for now, I mean, it's been for the last 30 years. It's only getting better. So let's recap a little bit here before we scroll down. So as you can see, building was purchased at $18.2 million. Right there, it was put in service in June of 2015. The 4.377600 was the basis, or the amount of dollars that we can accelerate based on a 24% kind of a segregated percentage that we can break out. So that 24% is just an industry standard, because we've done so many buildings. That's typically what the standards are, that we can use 24% to write off that building. 24% of that purchase price is that magic number. So that's of that 4.377600. That's going to be the number that we start with, and then there you can see how we start to break out those numbers and get down to the first year cash savings of $208,554 and the 5-year cash savings of $976,571. So hopefully everybody can understand exactly where those numbers are. And when you start to plug into this, you're going to be able to run all kinds of these feasibility reports, and we can even run them for you at different amounts. So, let's say you've got a client that owns a $5 million building. You can actually have a $5 million benefit analysis as a sample, in your site seller, and you can say, hey, you've got a $5 million building. Wow, your net benefit is going to be $200,000. Or if it's $1 million building, or if it's a $3 million building, you'll be able to have these at your fingertips to show a potential client what their net cash benefit would look like immediately. And what a great way to build a relationship with somebody is this no cost, no obligation snapshot of what could be trapped in their building, or if it's a new acquisition, what they're going to be able to get over the next 5 years. So we can run these at all different timelines. If it's an older building, the IRS lets us go back to 1987 and run these. Now, we don't go back that far anymore, but we will go back to the mid-90s, and we'll run these, and the IRS allows a one-time catch-up of any missed depreciation. So we can do what's called a look-back study, and then if it's a newer acquisition, let's say they just purchased it. We see a lot of that in the market now. A lot of new acquisitions are going on. That is the very best time to do a cost seg study. Once it goes into service, because we want to accelerate the heck out of that building and break out those components in the proper depreciable schedules. You know, the accelerated depreciation schedules, instead of letting that building start depreciating the old way, which is 39 years. That is the wrong way. That's not the correct way anymore. We want to do a cost segregation study, and we do it the right way, and that's why they're going to get the biggest bang for the buck when they hire an engineering company like us, where we can put it in the put all these building components in the proper expense buckets, and that's critical. So let me show you, if we scroll down, just to show you a couple other things here. You know, this shows you just the pie chart. It just says impact of cost segregation on an asset classification. This just tells you, you scroll down a little bit more, you know, what it looks like on the original allocation, and now what it shows you based on the cost segregation allocation. Now this breaks it down, this next, right there, perfect. You can actually see how we came up with the 24%. In our earlier conversations, we took 24% of that purchase price and put it into the shorter year life. Now, if you look at the first line item up top, so you see the asset class and then asset life, maybe draw a line underneath that, the 5-year, there you go, and then draw it all the way across. Perfect. You'll see we put the 16% of that number will fall into 5-year life. Okay, so that gives us 2.981400. So that's going to be the 5-year property. And then if you scroll down to the 15-year life, which is under land improvements, which is all the landscaping, curbs, parking lots, outdoor lighting, drainage systems, etc., you're going to see that 1.459200 number. So that's going to be 8%. So 16 plus 8 is going to give you 24. Now the rest of the building of 76% of the building that's left over, or 13,862,400, that is going to depreciate over the next 39 years. That's just going to depreciate the normal straight line method, and that's just the way that goes. So those are all the numbers that tie to. Now, if we scroll down, let's go to the next page. You'll see that this just talks a little bit about impact of the depreciation expense. It just shows you some numbers, and it just kind of shows you before and after a cost segregation study. I don't really share this with clients. This is just something that maybe the CPA will look at. So you can scroll down here. Let's just keep scrolling down. And I'll actually show you a section here where you'll be able to see it a lot better. This next section just kind of shows taking the money, by doing a cost segregation study, it's going to free up some cash flow, and it talks about paying the mortgage down. So this is something that, you know, real estate clients like to look at, maybe their CPAs like to look at. It's just really something for their own knowledge. It's not something that you have to get into and explain. So scroll down. Keep going. This just talks about interest and income and taxes and paying that stuff out of the impact that can have. Sometimes there's bonus depreciation involved. Well, I'm not going to get into that at this point, but sometimes there's on new acquisitions, or if they're doing new build-outs, there's potentially where they can actually get a 50% bonus depreciation in the first year, which actually doubles their cash savings, which can be very huge. Okay, so this particular Appendix A just breaks down the year it was put into service. So for this particular situation was, this building was purchased in 2015, and this is just a nice, easy table where you can see that the depreciation before a cost segregation study, which is the third box over to the left, yep, and the depreciation after the cost segregation study. Look at the difference. Then it shows you the change in depreciation. And then again, there's that number that was at the top of the benefit page on page 1, which was their net in their pocket, net $208,554. Now the next set of all these other numbers just shows you how the building depreciates over the next 39 years. And it'll actually show you the compression of the accelerated depreciation. So look at, stop right there. Oh, go back up. I want to show everybody one thing real quick. So if you look at the next year down, look at 2016. Look at the depreciation numbers on how they accelerate. So, you know, it's going to be, if you go up a little bit more so they can see the tables and the titles, just a little more clear if you go up, there you go. So if you look at before and after again, 1.427958, and then you look at the difference in depreciation in year number 2, 960,266, and then their net in 16 is going to be 336,093. So the CPAs will get into this. You don't really have to get into this. These are self-explanatory numbers. I just wanted you to be aware of how the actual depreciation schedules will tabulate out. Now, in our cost segregation studies, once we actually get hired and do the engineering report, it'll actually be, you know, dead nuts. This benefit analysis is an approximation, but pretty accurate, usually up or down 5%. We try to be conservative on these numbers when we first do these benefit analysis, just so, you know, just FYI. So these numbers will not be Bible, but they're pretty accurate overall. So that's all I really wanted to get into on this particular training. I hope it helps. Now you're going to have probably questions when you start getting into this. The biggest thing I can help you with, or the biggest thing that the biggest advice I can give you from a coaching standpoint is when you're prospecting out there, you really just want to let your prospect know if they own a building that this exists, a little bit about cost segregation. You know, we've got a ton of information in our resource center, on our website of how it works. You know, there's 3 or 4 basic components of cost segregation, but on a big picture, it just accelerates the depreciation. And by writing off the building over a 5-year period versus the normal 39-year period, it's just a good thing. I mean, there's no downside to it. And you want to get to the benefit analysis. Again, when you can do these studies for no cost, this is your giveaway. This is where the rubber meets the road. Our closing ratios go up to 80% once we can put this under the nose of the CPA and their client, because once the CPA sees this and they give it their blessing, then we're hired immediately, because the CPA has, you know, a lot of credibility with their client. And then typically the owner of the building will introduce us to the CPA, and then we can start the conversation. So whether you're prospecting to the CPA first and then we meet the client, or we meet the client first and then they're introduced, we're now introduced to the CPA. It doesn't. There's different maybe methodologies between the two. I'm not going to get into those right now, but the bottom line is that we want to get the depreciation schedule if it's an older building, and that is just, it's a 1-page sheet that the CPA typically has that keeps track of their depreciation and what they paid for it and what they allocated towards land, because we always back land out. Land cost is usually about 20% of the acquisition, and then 80% goes to the building. And so that gives us, that gives us all the information to be very, very accurate when we do these benefit analysis. Now, if you can't get the depreciation schedule and you're just on the fly and you're out and about and you're working with maybe some real estate brokers, or maybe your uncle has a building, or your CPA says, hey, call Jim, you know, he's got he just picked up a building, or he owns a couple buildings, or hey, my uncle Jerry has a couple apartment buildings. I can make the introduction. That's the key thing. You want people to start introducing you to people that own buildings, and then you're simply saying, hey Jerry, I was referred to you, and I got a couple questions for you. I think I can help you maybe improve cash flow in your building. If you don't mind, I want to run a free, no-cost benefit analysis for you, and I've got a couple questions. One, what did you pay for that building? Oh, I paid $2.6 million. Okay, great. And when did you purchase it? Do you remember? Yeah, I bought it back, back in March of 2013. Okay, great. What I'll do is let me run these numbers for you. I'll show you what your cash benefit could be, and if it makes sense to you, and if it sounds promising, why don't we get together and I'll show you a little bit more in depth on how this works, a little bit more about what we do and how we help real estate investors like yourself. Fair enough? And then just get off the phone. You don't want to start selling, and you don't need to get into any more than just selling the benefit analysis, and then the follow-up, which would be the next meeting, and that's when you're getting us on the phone. And once you do that, it's game over. We'll help you close the deal. So I don't want to go into, I shared a lot, I threw out a lot, I'm sure your head's spinning. We have these in the Resource Center, you can break them down, and again, it's very easy to get these ran for you. It's very easy to do these. You just got to ask, and you got to be assertive, and you got to tell the real estate investor, the guy that owns the building, what you need and how this is going to go down. Be assertive, not aggressive, but assertive, and tell them, hey, this is what I do for a living. I can help you improve cash flow. I mean, who does not want to improve cash flow in their real estate portfolio? So guys, that's going to conclude our training for today on the cost segregation feasibility analysis, also referred to as the benefit analysis. My name is Terry Judge. We do these periodically. We're going to upload this in the Resource Center. More to come. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.